Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Off the Spot. From the Spot, rather. We got Off the Blue. We got From the Spot.
Yeah.
We're here with Jim Thomas, head coach of Boise State Soccer, and this is our first filmed edition of From the Spot. So, Jim, pleasure to have you here. Excited to do it this way and give fans another perspective of Boise State Soccer.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're letting them inside. You know, this is the inner sanctum. So, but it's fun. I'm glad people get to see what we do and how we do it. We're pretty proud of our processes here at Boise State. We're lucky for the facilities that we have, but we take advantage of them too. People like yourself, facilities like this as well. So pretty rad.
Yeah, always trying to grow, always trying to evolve and make something happen for Boise State, push it to the next level. What's next? And for you, what's next has been this preseason training program. Sure. So I know you're coming to a close on it now. It's wrapping up, getting ready for that first match against Portland State. What has preseason training for the 2024 season looked like for you guys?
It's been great, actually. We're really lucky to have as older squad as we do. So a lot of senior leadership there that's helped guide us through some of the challenges that we faced. And it's certainly when you get into a position where you're trying to win a championship, you want to try and find out all of the holes as soon as you can so you have long enough to fix them, whether it's on the field, off the field, in training kind of methodologies or in positional relationships, whatever it is. There's so many things that you can get right or wrong that the sooner you start to earmark, we might be a little shallow here or this area needs to develop a little bit, the more time you have to work on it. So the seniors have been really, really great at kind of setting the standards and expectations for each training session and allowing us to really evaluate as a coaching staff where we feel like we are at this early part of the year. And certainly we've had some singular focuses rather than a broad scope, which is a little different for us. We've taken two areas of focus and really wanted to hone in on those. And those have shown significant improvement. As we're recording this right now, we're hours away from our intra-squad. So this will be the final jumping off point for us where we really get to evaluate what the first week and a bit's worth of work has done for us. And we leave a little window at the end to say, okay, we need some finer tuning in these areas. So tonight will be a big kind of final evaluation of where we're at. So it's been a lot of install, focus on those two primary areas, and senior-led standards and expectations to make sure that we can evaluate where we're at. But it's been a really positive camp. Overall, lots of fun had. We were up river rafting the other day. My son Kingsley comes up, and he's a bit of a river rat, as it turns out. He's always causing mischief, and you spend about 2.5 hours floating down a river with people. You get to know him a little bit more, and we went out for dinner and a movie the night afterwards, and again, just more organic moments for us to get closer, them to see us as people as well as coaches, and for us to see them as people, not just players. And certainly with such a tight group that we have, they do a lot of this stuff on their own, off of Boise State's time, as it were, that we felt like it would be good for us to share in how they live their lives a little bit too. So it's been fun that way.
Yeah, and it's always important when you talk about, building a culture, making sure that there is the aspect of training and being ready for the season, but also the aspect of having fun and enjoying it, because, when you look at it for college sports, these kids are here to play a game and do it in college and advance their careers in that way, whether it be academically or for life in soccer after school. So when you try to balance the fun with the camp and being prepared for season, how do you kind of draw the line? Where do you decide how hard we're going to push them in training versus how hard we're going to push them in terms of activities to grow as a team? Yeah,
I think it's a great point, and it's a little bit of an art form that you're molding and manipulating that depending on where your program's at, the players within it and what they need, the strength of the group and the bonds within it, the challenges that you're anticipating moving forward. So there's so many factors that would come into how you would do something like that. Listening to your group, giving them an opportunity to speak and have a voice within that, I think is key. And one of the pieces of feedback that we've always had from this group since they were younger, and now the group of, I think, 12 or 13 seniors that are actually going to graduate at the end of this year, they've always wanted to experience things away from soccer. They love the sport, they love competing within the sport, but it's invaluable for them to build experiences and memories off of the field, that kind of fulfills or fills up the cup of the experience that they have here. And that's really important for them, that when they leave, that they'll look back at more than just soccer. And as a father and as a guy that's been around the sport now over half of my life, I agree with them. You know, the fine balance part becomes that you have to remember why you're actually here. You know, it's very easy to use this thing to get this experience out of it. But we're here to win championships. We're here to get into the NC2A tournament and go as far into that as we can. We're here to leave legacies as the best version of Boise State that we can ever be. We want to be historic. And that takes sacrifice, commitment, hard work, dedication to a craft to improve it. That stuff's not always rainbows and bunnies. It's not always the fun stuff. So if they're actually going to give you that, then I think having the balance on the other side about making it more than that only feeds energy back into, okay, now I really want to go the extra mile. My off-season training, how I manage my academics, how I treat my teammates actually becomes much different now because the program and playing for this sport means more to me because of all of these things off of the field. So I do actually think it matters to performance as well, but the challenge becomes making sure that they're focused at the right time on now come Thursday or Friday, come Sunday, we have to win. The whole purpose of it is for us to beat the opponent on the other side of the ball. All of the things that we do should be leading towards that. And I think we're seeing that with the group now. There's this start of the preseason where people are kind of, what's soccer, what's training, what's championship season, and you've got older players that are like, yeah, this is day 2, I'm good. I know where we're going to be in day 10, and I know what's going to happen in 2 months. So I'm not going to give you my championship performance on day 2. I'm going to build towards that. But the first game itself, when you get close to that, and I think we're really kind of in the proximity of it now, the tone changes. We had MJ come up on a set piece in training yesterday, and it's a great ball delivered from a corner. She comes onto it, volleys it home, runs past me. I'm on the sideline just doing my coach thing, stares me down in the eyes as she's jogging past. She goes, "I'm not messing around this year," and just ran right past me. I'm like, no, you're not messing around at all. But you can see that intensity in her eyes, and this competitive drive is starting to build in her now, and I think she reflects a lot of the players on the team that they're ready to go. They want to get into competition now. And that kind of sharpening of the sword is happening as we get closer to the games.
Yeah, you're battling everything that comes with yourself in terms of trying to fight your teammates for positions, for playing time, for just in these inter-squad scrimmages like you talked about. You're fighting to get back into shape, like you talked about the off-season training when you come back for this type of stuff. And currently, right now, I know it's maybe not talked about as much. You're kind of fighting the elements with the air quality that's been in Boise because of the smoke from the fires. What type of wrinkle does that throw into your challenges? And I guess how good of a metaphor is it for the unforeseen things that are always going to come up during the course of a season?
I think you nailed it. I mean, you can look at it as this is a bummer and why is this happening and this isn't great. Or you can look at it as the inevitability of what can happen when it comes to performing on mandated days at a mandated level. You know, the reality is while the smoke's improving for tonight's match, it could come back tomorrow. It could come back by tonight. You just don't know. Your flight can get delayed. There can be lightning. We were in Arizona, and we were in a massively competitive match. Lightning comes, we clear the field. And an hour and 45 minutes later, you got to go back out and do it again. You're not going to change in your physical preparation at that point. You didn't get fitter while you sat down. You didn't get better at soccer while you sat down. You lost focus, or you kept focus, or you gained focus. And that kind of thing you can actually train through all of this. A lot of it is a willingness to stay present in the moment and allow what is happening to happen. Some people don't want it and they try and resist it. But the reality is there is a lot of smoke in the air. It's not going away very quickly, and if it does, yay. If it doesn't, you still have to play. Right now, the AQI is at 160. The NC2A would have us play up to 200. So we would have to play him much worse than this anyway. How do you handle it? Mentally, where you at? And are you going to use this as something that is an immovable object? Or is it a problem that you're going to hack? I'm going to hack a solution to this. I'm going to get through it some way, shape, or form so we win anyway. And we actually do this a lot in training, where we try and take customary problems that they've seen before. Some of them are fun, some of them are hard, some of them are obscure, and help them understand the parameters of competition and how their mind can look at it. And I hope that keeps them fluid and growth-oriented when it comes to some of these things like lightning delays or dealing with training changes based on smoke. We went inside yesterday to train. It was too bad to be outside. And they made great of it. It's an excellent, excellent session. At a completely different time than what they'd been on the rhythm of doing. Those things can happen. You can change kickoff time in a heartbeat to get it in before the weather comes in or before the smoke gets too bad as the projections go. So you have to be the fluid one as the coaching staff or as the player or as the program. If you're not, then you're allowing your lack of flexibility to prevent you from being as effective a competitor as you could have been. You didn't get worse. You just weren't flexible in that moment. So for me, it offers us a great opportunity. And this group are really, really good at it. So an example of what I'm talking about is you can set up a relay race. And we do this kind of goofy stuff all the time. Get yourselves into teams. Here's a simple parameter of a relay race. There are 3 stations. You have to get your team to and from it, each station, as quick as you can in a relay format. Go. And the only thing that's actually been set as a standard are the things that I just said. If I didn't say it, it's not a rule. So they're able to manipulate as much of that as possible without structurally changing the task at hand. And the solutions they come up with are unbelievable because they're mentally fluid and they're not looking at it as a rigid problem. They heard the terms of engagement and then they just found an uncustomary solution. It's amazing to watch. It's hilarious. And sometimes you have to be like, well, nah, that's not quite in the spirit of what we were doing here. But invariably, they just come up with great solutions all the time. And I think that's kind of the mindset we're trying to build for them. Different system. Okay, well, the scout was wrong. They changed systems to play against us. What are you going to do? Be mad that the scout was inaccurate because they looked at us and changed? Or say, well, we got them to change. Now, how do we change to beat them? The kickoff changed. Our flight got in late. The weather's way, way worse. Go down to UNLV. It's 108 degrees. How are you going to play? And you can look at it and say, well, it's too hot to do what we were going to do. Or you could say, well, we can do it in these ways. How do we manipulate so we can still do it? And they're a very fluid group that way. So that makes problem solving and in-game coaching really fun, really effective. But these moments like smoke delays or smoke issues or anything with the elements really offers you an opportunity to live in that problem solving real time. So it's kind of good in a way that you get the opportunity to figure out how your group's going to respond to it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that kind of, the relay race idea that you're talking about there, that kind of brought me a little bit into my next question, which you're talking about mentality and who you're going to be and how are you going to respond. When you're in preseason training, you're usually worried about the physical shape of your student athletes, and you're worried about installing your systems or how are we going to play against these systems or what are the Boise State set pieces look like. Yeah. So how, outside of the relay race, do you try to also affect mentality and say this is who we are going to be as Broncos, this is how we're going to think, whether it's going to be outside of the box or adaptive on the fly, or maybe sometimes we need to be more rigid?
Sure. I think they're long-term concepts you're talking about there. I think if you can be consistent in that as a coach and a coaching staff, you can work on some of the foundations of that in the off-season. You cycle it around through competitive opportunities in the fall, and you repeat that 2 to 3 times before they get to their senior year. So they become much more effective at it and understanding of it. A simple thing to think about is when we coach, we use examples of things that we're trying to teach them. So this is how we're going to press this system in this scenario. But rather than saying player A is responsible for player B, we teach them the concept that's applying to that situation. Now, you can take that same concept and apply it to a myriad of different situations. Here are a few more. And you start making them think in terms of applying ideas and concepts as opposed to rote answers to questions, right? And then you back it up with, well, now it's a crossbar competition, and you've got to hit the crossbar, the posts, the back of the goal as fast as you can. Go. Now they're looking at, well, that's the problem. What's the solution to it? The concepts are these. How can I do that? And they're in a mindset of trying to solve problems from their own positional perspective of the game and their own physical capacity of the game. As long as it's relevant conceptually to what we're talking about. So we are a high pressing team. If they're finding solutions that are low block oriented and non-engaging, that's actually counterproductive, because you're going to have half of the team or a majority of the team finding solutions in one style, and the other solutions are being found in another style. And it's imperative that we all are kind of working in a similar style, the same style. So if everyone's in a low blocks are great, and we use them. But conceptually, we have to teach them why. So, for example, if a team has bunkered down on us and we can't get in behind them, we're in dominant fashion, they're locked in by their goal, we're in their half, and we're really pounding on them. Pressing on the backside of that, which is customary for us, can sometimes be a negative. It's almost like you're just trying to ram your head through a brick wall. Low blocking, when they get the ball, you just back. It's like half-court basketball, for those of you that don't know the term. When you lose the ball, instead of going to get it back again, you run away from it, and you go back to your own goal, forces them to come towards yours, which opens up space for you to attack behind them. So you would use a different defensive application to try and create an offensive opportunity. If we can get them to think like that, in all of the things that they do, they'll actually bring more ideas to the table than we can coach. So you do those kind of things over a long period of time. The other side of that, the kind of flip side of that coin, is it's very difficult to be creative tired. It's very difficult to be in a an enthusiastic problem-solving state when you're fatigued. So in fact, what we do probably more consistently than anything else during a preseason is manage workload. So they don't ever work more than 3 days in a row. While they are active multiple times a day, one of the sessions is incredibly low in impact and high in technical reps. So they don't really do that much work. They're really working on a refined technique more than anything else. And in the team sessions, we manipulate the work-rest ratio, how many people are resting versus how many people are working, and the duration of those workloads, to ramp up briefly to high intensity, but not spend too much time there, and back that up with significant rest. So every fourth day is a non-work day for us from a physical standpoint. But even within that, there are little micro cycles that will have a kind of a peak and a trough in the work itself. So they're never really getting to a point of utter fatigue. It's not like what you see in Remembering the Titans. We don't do that anymore. Their fitness is a lifestyle. It's something that they do year round, and they cycle up and down based on being primed for September through November. So that means certain things have to happen in June and July. May has to be a significant rest point based on them cycling up in April. So those kind of ideas that you're talking about are things that we would do over the course of multiple years. But in order for them to come out and come to fruition fully, we have to make sure that they're not overly fatigued. They're going to get tired. It's tiring. But they can't be overly fatigued. So we really are more focused on fatigue management than anything else.
And this is the high-level stuff that you got to think about as a coach, as a coaching staff, when you're thinking about practice plans and, dealing with fifth-year seniors versus incoming freshmen,
sure,
and those type of things. So we've covered kind of the high level, what you got to think about as a coach, and the X's and O's and the practice plans. But a lot of people want to know the simple stuff too. So I guess the next question is, What have you seen so far at preseason training? What's impressed you?
The pace of the team, the sheer team speed, I think has been eye-catching. You have a kid like Tambry Bell, who basically, she's like a Tesla, you know, where you push the gas and it's just like full speed right away, you know. She's like that in everything she does, and it's impressive. And she's got the athleticism for that to really stand out. We've got some really smooth movers like an Oakley Anderson that just cruises, and you get to see her go head-to-head with a kid like Asia Loya, who lit the world on fire with her pace last year. And Oakley can run with her. And it's kind of fun to watch. Like, okay, let's just put the ball away and do that again. That was good. So I think the overall speed, we've always been a fast team. Having Avery McBride be healthy and having a really, really fulfilling camp has been excellent. And watching her get after it with Carly Cross up front and that kind of speed and athleticism, it's a lot. It's a lot to see and exciting to see. But there are other players right behind it. Sophie Avalos is of the world. That are incredibly pacey as well when you play them next to an Asia Loya, and they're having to get round players like Oakley in training or a Kennedy in training, Kennedy Sullivan, these really, really smooth movers. I think the pace stands out a great deal. The other side that's probably been the kind of under the radar part that I think we'll find out a little bit more about tonight is the player or positional competitions. You know, there's some younger players that are trying to jump up over older players. And there's older players that are saying, no, thank you, ma'am. I will take that back. And watching them get after it like that in training is actually quite good for us to have this impetus. Like, we're going to talk about pressing, yes. But now you're trying to press with the intent to impress. And that's got a different intent to it, you know. And some people are now using their mentality differently, where I know more than you. I know my soccer IQ is higher than yours, and I'm going to start using that to win these battles. So watching them actually interact as a group of girls that love one another and enjoy each other's company, but actually battle for positions, that's been fun. And as that goes, I think we've had more positional battles than normal. Well, I'm about 90% done with the starting lineup. I got 9 out of the 11 that I feel really, really comfortable with. To be at this juncture with this many old players and not be able to pick a starting 11, that'll tell you something. I have no idea who I would put on a 22 to travel. There's too many good players. There's too many players that are playing really, really well. There's too many battles that haven't been won yet positionally. So I think that's been a unique and really exciting part of the whole thing, is seeing this team that we've been building for so long now, and the work that Max and Liz do in recruitment and have been doing in the last 2 or 3 years in recruitment to upgrade the athleticism of our team so it really emphasizes the pressing and countering style that we want to play in. That's coming to fruition now, where there are no bad movers. There are no slow players. Everyone's got immense pace, very fit, very well prepared to play in that style, and there's a lot of them. So it's exciting to see that part come to fruition, and now to see that what you get out of creating a squad like that is internal competition, which I've referred to in previous podcasts as internal tension, and I think it's imperative for a team. You can't know, even if you're brilliant, you can't know that you're the starter and always will be no matter what. Otherwise, you'll get a degradation in your ability to train, prepare, mentally stay focused, care about the small details. It's very, very rare that people without some form of challenge to their position can actually still progress. They're very rarefied for you. The vast majority of us are normal, and if they're not being challenged, you kind of take your foot off the gas. It's human nature a little bit. So having that internal tension coming from positional battles is super exciting. But those would be the two things that really grabbed my eye so far.
Yeah, you definitely never want complacency like you're talking about, where you do want to see these people be challenged. And talking about the inner squad coming up, you've got the first real game in just a few days away now. Portland State is coming up. So far, what do you know about them? You're going to be opening up with them, opponents from the Big Sky.
Yeah.
Their coach has been there quite a long time. Sure. So what's the familiarity level with Portland State?
Well, pretty good. We played them in the past, and we've played Katie Burton's the head coach there, and we've played her version of the squad as well. They've been pretty stable as a 4-4-2 for the last few years. You never know. People change all the time, and certainly people change when they play other teams as well. But we'll begin with what we know in that. And they're coming off of an amazing year. They made the Big Sky tournament and are really making strides after maybe spinning their wheels for a little bit. They've kind of found their groove and found their way to climb the ladder internally from a conference standpoint, and that really changes your confidence levels and your expectation levels, and usually that sharpens the sword a little bit, you know. At this juncture, though, I don't think who we play really matters. We're trying to still learn about ourselves and improve ourselves. So this will be an opportunity for us to play against an emerging team that's coming off of a very good year and plays, in the past, has played a specific system that we'll be able to practice against and learn about ourselves and grow from ourselves. And hopefully, you know, the pre-game music will be jamming. The girls will be dancing and laughing and goofing around and loving that new locker room that they've got and enjoying their first game in there. And I know I'll be looking for the lights to turn on and the kind of mood to really change towards competing at the highest level. But, you know, sharing in these competitions with your team that's got the kind of personality that this group of goofballs have got is awesome. I mean, game day's experience is really, really amazing. And I think at this point, these preseason games this year are not going to be about, you know, win-loss record. That's not really the point. We'll try and win every game. We always try and win every game. That's the context of what we're doing. We have to continue to improve in the areas that are going to help us in October and set us up to win in the first week in November with the idea of winning as many games in November as we can. That's it. And if we don't do that in August, then we can set ourselves back. So Portland State offer us an opportunity to kind of make a first step of this is where we're at right now. What do we need to keep doing in training through the rest of these games to make sure that we're ready for when New Mexico and San Diego State come into town, or when we have to go on the road to Logan for the last game of the year, or then when we go back down to San Diego for the conference tournament, which we hopefully will make as champions, with the idea of bringing the tournament back here, and that's the goal. So I think that with an older group, you get to do it slightly differently, right? Because they know systems, they know teams, they know the cadence of the year, and they know me very well. They know my expectations and what we're trying to achieve. That's not the goals of the season are not. They're almost not worth having the session on. The goal of the season is to be unbelievable in school, leave a positive impact on your community, and win every single game that you play. Rings, championships, that's the goal. So we don't need to have too many big conversations about it. They know that as well as I do. But figuring out how we can be the best versions of ourselves together, who are the best relationships in certain positions at certain times against certain opponents, that takes some time every year because these guys got a lot better. You know, they keep evolving. We've added players, but players that have been here for 4 years are a lot better than what they used to be. And they're showcasing that every day. So it's a continual learning process.
Of course, and we've talked a lot about expectations on here, and everybody, I think, at this point who's listened to From the Spot should know that, you know, winning the regular season conference title and winning the conference championship and playing in the NCAA tournament, those are year-to-year goals, and those are never going to change.
Nope.
And you talked about the preseason improving, seeing growth. We've talked about that a lot as well, just over the years that me and you have chatted. So for the fans who are going to come out and watch these games at home against Portland State, against Idaho, what are some of the things that, in your eyes, they should be looking at to see your growth as a team on the pitch?
I think we've pressed before, not like this. This team does it different, with a different attitude, a different moxie, with a different intent. I think they're going to see a little bit more of a flex from this group, to be honest with you. They carry themselves different. And that's taken some time for them to really allow themselves to do that as a group of players. I don't think we've really coached much different. It's more the players have grown and they've taken more ownership of it and become better at it and realized their own potential within it. Their own desires and reasons for doing this have become more apparent to them, and they're reflecting that in their performances. The diversity of the attack will be something that will look different too. We will be faster, for sure. But we also have some different ways to go. With traditional target strikers that can finish off for crosses, we haven't seen that. We have not had a target available for open field deliveries into the box. So you look at Carly Cross, she's a magical forward, but she's like 3 feet tall. So it's not like she's going to win too many balls in the air, you know. No, Carly, I know you're taller than that. But when you have a target striker like Anaya in there and you deliver a ball and she can get right across the centre back and power the ball home with her head, well, now we're a different problem. And that will change how teams have to react to us on the flanks of the field, which will open things up for people like Avery, Asia, Avalos, Sophie Schmelt, another young player who do really, really well. But also the next tier, Pador, Connor, Collins, that are wonderful at carrying the ball at lower levels. So I think by the addition of some of these young guys or new guys, Des Foster has been phenomenal in this preseason. That I'm excited to see her adaptation to the team and how other teams are now going to have to react to this flank play when we've got such strong central play. It's like pick your poison kind of thing. So I think you'll see some diversity in attack, and I think I'll really see this kind of bravado. I mean, there's just a different way about them. And I think it's the championship way. I think it's the thing that makes the difference. I think back to the 18s and the 19s, and they all were different. But when they won, it was an attitude that was palpable. It wasn't fake. It was who they were, who they knew they were, and they were going to let you know every day. And this group are exactly the same. They know who they are, and they're going to let you know, no matter what we're doing or where we're doing it, Boise State Soccer is here, and this is how we're going to go down. And I think that kind of confidence, swagger, is really what takes great teams and pushes them across the line. So my job is to continue to foster that and bring that out in them, let them know that I'm loving that, and harness that towards coordinated performances, but not douse it. We're gonna fuel that fire for sure.
We can't wait. It's just a couple days away, August 16th. It'll be here before you know it. So, Jim, we appreciate you taking the time to come here for another episode of From the Spot. Looking forward to keeping these going and expanding to new platforms with the video element as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.